Thank you for watching 5-Minute Bible Studies. My name is Tanner Campbell, and in this episode we're going to talk about the Gospel according to John and what makes John's narrative of Jesus Christ unique from the other three Gospel accounts. Now, in previous episodes, we have talked about how Matthew wrote specifically with the Jewish reader in mind, and how Mark wrote to the Roman reader, and how Luke wrote to the Greek reader. And so they seem to have everything kind of covered as far as the Jew, the Greek, the Roman. It seems to be all the known world for the most part at the time of the first century. And then we come to John's account, which is certainly a very, very unique account. Who did he write to, and what is his purpose of writing? What makes his account unique? Well, as far as who he wrote to, which we'll also see in that what his purpose is certainly very different from the first three gospel accounts. In John chapter 20 and verse 30, John says that truly Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples which are not written in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Unlike Matthew, Mark, and Luke, as we can go through those narratives and spot certain things that show us that they have a direction of a particular audience in mind, like Jew or Greek or Roman, with John we really can't do that. We can't find any specific type of person that he's writing to. But rather, what he says in his own words is that he has written this book. In verse 31, he says, "But these things are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God." So who did John write to? Well, I would present to you that he wrote to you. He wrote to me. That's what he said, didn't he? He said, these things were written that you may believe. So he didn't have any specific culture in mind. Any specific geographical region of people in mind. He simply had you and I in mind. That we could read the things that he said and come to a conclusion that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. His purpose here is that you and I would come to have faith, to believe in Jesus. That's why he wrote everything that he wrote in this narrative, is so that we would believe. And he sticks to that idea. In fact, we find the word believe and its synonyms used 66 times in John's account. 66 times. This is only a 21 chapter book. And he uses that word believe 66 times. And likewise, he uses the word know 82 times in the account. Now, certainly sometimes that word know would not be used in reference to believing something, having confidence in something, but many, many times that is why he is using that word in his narrative. To believe in Jesus Christ, to know that he is the Son of God. So he's writing all of these things for you, for I, to believe in Jesus Christ. As we go through the narrative, we find in John's account him giving examples of other people believing in Jesus Christ and knowing that he is the Son of God. Many different examples. For example, in chapter 1, beginning verse 37 through verse 41, we find individuals observing Jesus Christ for only a few hours, and they come to a confident conclusion that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. We also have in John chapter 6 and verse 68 and 69, after certain individuals have observed Jesus over a span of a couple of years, seeing all that he has done, being able after a number of years to come to the conclusion that, he's just a big hypocrite, or he's living two different lives. He says one thing to the people, but he's really not whom he says that he is. No, that's not true. In chapter 6, verse 68, we find these individuals who have observed him intimately over the course of a couple years, still being extremely confident, 100% confident that he is whom he says that he is. He is, in fact, the Son of God. We have individuals who have seen him from his beginnings in chapter 2 and verse 1 through 11. Mary, his own mother, who has known him from the beginning. What does she think of him? What is her confidence towards him? She believes emphatically that he is, in fact, the Son of God. Now, that is one powerful testimony from his own mother, understanding who exactly he is and the power that he has as the Son of God. John also records very uniquely an individual of great standing and who gives his own personal testimony of who Jesus Christ is, and that is Father God. In chapter 1, beginning in verse 29, all the way through verse 34, John provides us with God's own testimony. Certainly, as Jesus was being baptized in the river by John the Baptizer, Jesus comes out of the water, and the voice of God comes from heaven, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Wow, what a testimony. God's own testimony that Jesus is, in fact, the Son of God. All these things and so many more through this 21-chapter book were written for what purpose? As he said back in chapter 20, verse 31, these things were written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. That is the purpose of the gospel according to John.